Hey everybody, welcome to the MakerDAO community call. Happy February 23rd. My name is David Utrobin. I am a community development lead at the Maker Foundation and longtime MakerDAO community member. And I get the pleasure of hosting these calls. And today, judging by the people in the room, is going to be quite an exciting one. So yeah, just to give a brief overview about the call, typically we cover one of two things. We either do a weekly update where we cover the Maker Relay. The Maker Relay is a really great publication that's put together by contributors in our community, and it covers basically everything that's happening in the Maker universe for the last week. And besides that, we've been working on focusing on getting more guests on this call, so we don't actually do the weekly update as often as we used to. And yeah, more guests seems to be the right way to go. And today we have a really great set of guests. No, Joshua, you're not supposed to join a Zoom. I'm actually going to invite you on screen right now. And John, if you're in here, a comment would definitely help me find your name in the list. If not, that's all right. Yeah, so while I invite Joshua on the screen, Opolis is actually a name that's been around the Ethereum community for quite a while. I actually received this Opolis shirt at the first ETH Denver I went to a couple years ago. So Joshua, let me know if oh yeah, it says accepted and joining. Okay, cool. Yeah, and just a note on the general vibe of this call. Hey Josh, it's super laid back. Feel free to ask any questions in the chat. There's also an ask a question little widget on the bottom that you can choose. But honestly, if you type it in the chat, I'm happy to read it out loud on your behalf. And yeah, yeah, Joshua, nice shirt, repping that Colorado. Love it. Love it. Yeah, so you want to introduce yourself and introduce a little bit about Opolis? I think you're muted here. If you scroll over your video feed, yeah, there it is.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Great. I'm helping John try to get into the call.
Okay, cool. Yeah, let me know if there's anything I can do to help.
Is there an easy join link?
It should, yeah, just the URL here. Just you could send him this URL. He should be able to join through there. I don't actually think a registration is required, because I know there's also a registration page, but most people just join direct. Yeah, cool. So while we do that, I want to give maybe a little bit of a primer about what's happening at MakerDAO and why Opolis is actually becoming super relevant, especially over the coming months. So MakerDAO historically has been, here, actually, Joshua, I'm going to mute you just for a second so I don't hear your keyboard. Yeah, so MakerDAO historically has been, a product of its early community, and that early community formed the Maker Foundation. And the Maker Foundation's mandate really was to bootstrap MakerDAO as a protocol and MakerDAO as a community, and to really step away when it becomes self-sustaining. And this was outlined, a couple of years ago in the foundation proposal that was actually one of the very first MKR votes, and one of the principles there was gradual decentralization. And so with that, foundation teams working on Maker stuff are decreasing while independent teams are increasing. And so we have a number of really interesting Maker improvement proposals that are in the forums right now. There's one particular set of proposals around core units. And this is essentially establishing an infrastructure for independent teams at MakerDAO. And so independent teams need independent, employment and HR and payroll services and insurance. And so Opolis serves to help with a bit of that. So yeah, let me take a pause here. So Joshua, is John still having trouble?
Yeah, he said that it's thinking. Spinning.
Oh,
there he is.
Okay, cool. John, I'm inviting you on screen, so you should be receiving that invitation in just a sec. All right, cool. I see you're accepted and connecting. So yeah, more independent teams. Opolis becomes useful in that event.
Can you guys see me okay?
Yeah, we can see you. Hey, what's up?
Hey, I'm gonna move this down here so I'm not like looking off into the distance.
Yeah, no worries, man. So let's start it off pretty light. Let's do some introductions.
Sure.
You want to volunteer first, John?
Yeah, I can volunteer. So I'm John. I'm the founder and executive steward for Opolis. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay, just want to make sure. I'm getting a little lag on my video, on my video side. Okay. Hey, Jeremy. Cool. So I'm John Paller. I'm the founder and executive steward of Opolis. I also have a little bit of involvement in this little thing called ETH Denver, which is an annual, we call it an innovation festival and community gathering. It's sort of part hackathon, or as we refer to it as a Biddle-a-thon. ETH Denver's the birthplace of the Biddle meme. So we biddle, we create art, we build community, we do all sorts of different things. We just ran that event 2 weeks ago. And we had 31,000 unique viewers from 94 countries. And we gave away $250,000 in total bounties and prize money. And yeah, it was pretty insane. We had over 3,000 officially registered people. So it was cool. Anyway, so that's sort of sidebar stuff. So Opolis is my day job, you could say. And I have a 20-year background in HR tech and employment ecosystems. And I've been a founder multiple different times. I've personally masochistically W-2'd like 35,000 people in 41 US states. I built a big staffing company in a previous life before I decided to like take the red pill and go down the rabbit hole. And so I sold all that and I ran away as fast as I could once I understood the future of decentralized internet and decentralized ecosystems and DAOs and governance and like all this cool stuff that was emerging at the time. And so I've been knee deep and a mile wide in it since, and that's my background. So Josh, you want to go?
Yeah. Hey, I'm Josh. I'm the membership and community steward at Opolis. I also help out as the chess steward at ETH Denver. I came to the space by way of Lyft. I did enterprise sales and competitive intelligence there for about 3 years, driver growth, user acquisition, and wanted to build a decentralized rideshare. I took a Consensus Academy course and ended up going to work at Consensus. And then I found Opolis how we find a bunch of our members, which is I got downsized from Consensus and was going to need to go onto Cobra, and Cobra looked ridiculous. And it was literally a week and a half before ETH Denver. I was like, I'm going to go to ETH Denver. I'm going to find another job.
For context, Cobra is health insurance?
Yeah, Cobra is this like public-private cooperation to basically extend your existing health insurance plan.
Yeah, it lets you basically stay on your health plan for 18 months, and it's like, it sucks terrible. So yes, whoever said that, it sucks. Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah, you're paying for your entire plan.
Yeah, so instead of getting the employer, to like chip in, I mean, you're paying full boat on everything, and you're paying a premium for them to administer it. It's terrible.
Yeah,
it's a terrible.
Sounds rough. Jeez.
Mm-hmm. So I met the Opolis team and was like, hey, this is my situation. They're like, well, you could use Opolis. That's how I ended up here.
Yep. And so I basically wrangled Josh into like, he's a big player in the DAO ecosystems, and we needed some help in just organizing our membership onboarding, and so he's been working with us for a little over a year now, and
they call me the HR of the DAOs.
Yeah, that's kind of his nickname. So yeah, that's kind of the deal. So Nice shirt, by the way. I was going to say that's
Thank
a
you.
circa 2019 version. I can
Oh,
tell
yeah.
you exactly when and how you got that.
Yeah,
So-
yeah. I bet you could.
Yeah. Can you tell me the circa of this T-shirt though?
Oh wow, I'd say it's a little bit earlier than this one, but you probably could have received it at that same Youth Denver.
Yeah, Langa's right. It's 2018.
Yeah,
Yes,
there it
it was
is.
Prague.
Oh, sweet. See, I
No,
wasn't
it
around
was
for
no, it
Prague.
wasn't Prague. That was 2019. 2018. This was maybe East San Francisco actually in the
Oh,
fall
wow.
of 2018. Yeah, this was like I've had this particular shirt for a long time, but
Legacy stuff.
yeah, it's old school stuff.
So
Well, maybe
this is-
Prague was 2018, wasn't it? Maybe the fall. No, it was the fall 2018. So whenever that was, that's when it was. So I rocked my my old man Maker gear.
nice. Yeah, I think Prague was like 20. I think somebody's doing vacuuming.
Yeah, hang on one second. Let me get them
Yeah,
to
no
turn
worries.
that off.
My favorite T-shirt, since I'll jump in here while John's gone, is the and it's actually what I named my Wi-Fi. My Wi-Fi is not stable, but my die is.
Oh, nice. I actually also got a urine shirt. It says "deeply broken" on it, which I empathize with. As a human being.
Yeah.
All right, here, hold on, John. I just temporarily muted you. Your audio's back.
All right, cool.
Cool. So cool. This is actually a pretty good segue. Like, Josh, you came onto Opolis looking for services, and then you were pretty much drafted onto the team. And so it actually brings me. It's a good segue to talk about like what other services beyond like healthcare for a typical like freelancer or independent contractor. Besides that, what other services does Opolis like offer?
So it might be helpful just to, the thing about the, and I'm gonna like attempt to share my screen here if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
If it allows me to do this.
If you scroll over your video feed, you should be able to. Yeah, cool. There you are. Your screen is popping up.
Yeah, so can you see it?
This is such a cool platform.
Okay.
Yeah, Crowdcast is not bad. I have minor amounts of complaints. So I see that your screen popped up, but I don't actually see anything yet. Yeah, it's gray.
Can you see it now? It's loading here. Hang on.
Yeah, just give it a second. I'm sure it'll load up. But yeah, definitely presenting something is better visually for people to follow than just having the convo. So
yeah, it's much easier, and we can share this with your community too. This has actually been designed specifically for Maker.
That's sweet.
Can you see it? You let me know when you can see it. If you can see it.
It's still gray for now. If anything, it might be worth like exiting the screen share and trying it again, and maybe it'll capture something.
Okay, let me try it again.
Yeah, you're actually the first person to have a great screen like that. I've never seen that on Crowdcast before. Peyton points it out. It's an exclusive. Oh, there it is. Yeah, I could see the Opolis employment front page.
Okay, there we go. Cool. All right, so we refer to Opolis as the Employment Commons. There's a reason for this. There's actually a legal design reason why we call it the Employment Commons, because the cooperative that we use, which is the legal framework, is actually an LCA. So Opolis and the Employment Commons are the combined sort of like Voltron total ecosystem. And what we really provide is payroll benefits and shared services for independent workers. So under the umbrella of independent workers is solopreneurs, digital nomads, Ethereans, gig workers, whatever, it could be anybody who's kind of living the YOLO life, and it could be anybody who's been a real estate agent for 15 years. It doesn't matter. We're completely agnostic as long as there's a few boxes that are checked. And it's a digital employment cooperative, so it's member owned. So we use a combination of legal frameworks that are, call it decentralized, and technologies that are decentralized to make the whole thing work. So then just kind of getting into like why this is important. So I think everybody kind of knows this, but just as a quick refresher, the entire curve of employment is moving back independent. So by 2028, it's estimated that 90 million people are going to be working independently. Now, this isn't just being pushed by the workers themselves. This is also being pushed by the employers who don't want the risk. It's too expensive. Gen Zers are already working over 50% as independent contractors. So what this really represents is a migration back to independent workers. It used to be that 90% or so of people in 1908 were independent workers. Well, the Industrial Revolution, factories, all, the standardized work week, all this stuff moved people into corporations. And now we're moving out of corporations. So there aren't any frameworks, though, to support that, though. That's the problem. All the HR tech that exists is all about corporations. So if you go do the independent contractor thing, I think as we talked about early on in the conversation, you're kind of on your own. It's like you got to figure it out on your own. So what Opolis does is plug that hole. It's designed specifically for the individual to offer portable employment and benefits, shared services, while maintaining 100% compliance. Now, we're often called the bridge between Web 2 and Web 3. So for those that are already participating in this ethereal world of, earning DAI or crypto or being a part of DAOs and having multiple income streams or whatever, this is a really big deal because there aren't other systems out there that help you kind of live your analog life with your banking and your insurance and your retirement plans and all the kind of standard fare stuff, plus having the ability to kind of operate in the futuristic realm of things. Not to mention, Opolis is a huge, huge bridge to Web 3 for our normie friends that don't know much about crypto, because you can do Opolis 100% analog and don't have to touch Web 3 and know it, because under the hood, we're abstracting away all of the Web 3 components that normally would be complicated and not terribly user-friendly.
So just to clarify, because I want to make sure I understand that correctly. So basically, you don't care if the person is working in crypto. The person can actually be in a traditional industry, completely unrelated, and they still can use Opolis.
We have independent clergy that know nothing. That just happen to run into this, and they're like, "Oh, this is amazing! I can save 60% off my Obamacare health insurance, and I can." Wait, I can get paid in a little bit of Bitcoin too? And it's sort of a really way to get people's intrigue going about Web3. So yeah, it works both ways. It helps people that are already in the ethereal world get legitimacy, right? So if you need to get your compliance done, your tax returns and your basis statements and your payroll and all the things that they're probably going to come after us for at some point in the future, all the people that are not reporting their income that they're getting from DAOs and things is not a good idea. So professionalizing yourself and legitimizing yourself into the Web 2 world, Web 3 world, huge. Plus getting all the normies in that are already gigging or doing independent contractor work, and then teasing them with things like, factoring your invoices in DeFi, things like that. There's a whole list of things that we have that we're building into the ecosystem that for those that want to go through the, getting signed on to Bright ID and the other things that we're implementing, you'll be able to access the whole potential of Web3 through one dashboard.
Very
now,
cool.
Why the hell does this matter to you? Because here's the thing that I realized. So if there's anything that I am, it's a game design expert in employment systems. Now, I earned this bullshit nerdy title by getting the living crap kicked out of me in employment systems for almost 20 years, right? So I've lived it. I've been there, done that, got a t-shirt, wrote a song about it. And what matters the most for the future of work is self-sovereign ownership of employment. If you don't actually own your employment, just like you don't own your keys, you don't own your crypto, you don't own your employment, you don't own your commercial life. So what Opolis allows is for that base layer of your commercial experience to be owned by you. And you get to choose all of the things that you want to kind of surround yourself with, from healthcare decisions to retirement plan decisions to what kind of currencies you want to take, and from where, with whom, and how much you want to work. So the entire decision matrix of employment is now up to you. Now, to illustrate this, it's really good to just kind of put it into context. So this is our friend Emily. She's a software developer. She's been independent working for 6 years. And she loves the freedom and flexibility. Those are her core values, right? That's her life. But she freaking hates everything about it when it comes to managing her business. The freedom she loves, the flexibility she loves, the administration sucks. And she pays $4,000 more to get the health insurance that she was normally getting through her former employer. She gets a bill for $3,000 a year to just administer things for her accountants and attorneys and things. And then she's got to juggle all this stuff from different revenue streams. And it's actually pretty stressful for her. Now, finding Opolis basically changed everything, because now she essentially, it feels like working for a company, and where she just gets the W-2 at the end of the year, because everything else is being done for her in a shared services stack. It's done completely compliant, and she can merge all of these revenue streams into one single system. She mirrors her benefits that she's used to having that makes her family feel comfortable and safe. She provides all of this for herself, so it's portable to her. So when she moves revenue streams, or she moves around the ecosystem and sort of, changes what she's doing for variety, none of it actually changes. And her shared services are set it and forget it. So all the compliance, getting paid in crypto, the unemployment filings, withholdings, tax payments, all the normal headache crap that you got to do, you don't have to do anymore. The best part about it is we've created a crypto economic game that basically allows her to get rewards and financial rewards for just consuming the system. So I'll give you an example. TriNet as a PEO is a $5 billion market cap company in the US. They don't share any of their profits with their actual employees, who are the 360,000 people that they provide payroll services for on a weekly basis. Because we're using a cooperative infrastructure, we're using the traditionally termed as patronage, and we've digitized it in terms of future profits, rights, and dividends. So yes, it's a professional employer organization. So to make the comparison, we're a decentralized employer organization using a cooperative framework that distributes the profits to its members through the terms of patronage, which is a typical cooperative legal structure that we've defined, and we've modernized it using an ERC20 token. So there's lots to learn about the actual work rewards. I'm just going to skim through it now. If I were you all, I would have questions about that. Because
I actually have a quick question before you skim through them. The work rewards you said are funded by the profits of the commons, right?
No, the work rewards represent your rights to the profits.
Okay.
So these are units of account in terms of patronage that give you rights to the profits. So let me give you an example. If you're a member of REI and you go buy a pair of skis, at the end of the year, they're going to send you a dividend, which is a representation of your share of the profits based on everyone's consumption for the year. Mm-hmm. So in terms of Opolis, it's consumption, referrals, and staking that are rewarded through growth thresholds. So we do this thing called, it's kind of like liquidity mining, but we call it payroll mining. So payroll mining happens at certain thresholds as we grow the total volume of payroll in the ecosystem. And once that happens, a chunk of tokens is unlocked and then distributed based on an algorithm that determines your consumption, your referrals consumption, and your staking contributions. And then you get these reward tokens issued to you that ultimately represent your rights to profits in the ecosystem on a pro rata basis based on the total membership. So it's based on consumption and ownership, and we're using a combination of legal frameworks and new age crypto economics frameworks and technologies to basically modernize the entire value distribution mechanism for a consumptive business.
Right. So let me try to summarize it back to you and you tell me if I'm getting it right. So an individual who wants to enroll in Opolis has to do so by creating an entity and buying a single share of the commons, right? Which is like a $20 thing.
Yep.
And in doing so, they are now a member of this cooperative of this commons of Opolis.
The Employment Commons LCA. Yep. Yep.
And in being there, they're this work like program system that you're describing is basically the mechanism by which they get rewards or are entitled to the company's like
as it grows in value. Yes, absolutely correct. And it's on a rolling basis. So you don't cash in your tokens. You continue to own the tokens, and you'll just be rewarded with the profits and dividends as they come available.
Got it.
And so as the ecosystem accrues value, this is and yes, Claudia, that slide is coming up. Thanks for that, Josh. But yeah, it's a really, let's put it this way. Our advisors that work in the cooperative space in Colorado. So if you don't know about Colorado and cooperatives, we are the Delaware of co-ops in the United States. So we have the most flexible cooperative law frameworks, and we are kind of known as the standards for cooperatives. So defining patronage is a very flexible thing that you can do here. And it's really pretty powerful stuff because we've used the flexibility of Colorado, and everybody should by now know that our governor is the former founder of Techstars, and our securities commissioner is the former chief counsel of the Ethereum Foundation. So if you don't know those things, like these are really big things when it comes to kind of advancing to this next world of value distribution and ownership and sort of the future of Web3. These are really big deals. In fact, we're about to announce a pilot program with the state of Colorado for Opolis, where people working inside the state infrastructure, seasonal workers, are going to have access to this entire ecosystem and also earn rewards into the system. So in any case,
actually, can I sneak a question in real quick?
Sure.
Since you started talking about states and stuff, I know that Opolis is a U.S.-based company, and currently. Yeah. So my
plans are to go international, but yeah, just to not disappoint anybody, it's walk before you run in terms of compliance, but the goal is to be an international public utility infrastructure for employment. So this is just stateside right now. And did you have a secondary question?
Yeah. So does it cover all states right now?
Not all states right now. There are a handful of exceptions that we're just not registered in yet for particular underwriting reasons. One is Arizona, and then there's a few others. We do suggest that you contact us regardless, and we'll let you know the status of your particular state. And we are working on some potential workarounds for like where you incorporate and other things like that just to get exemptions. But California, Colorado, Wyoming, Oregon, Washington, Tennessee, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, New York, like these are all open for business. So like, I think Florida's just open now too, with all the Miami stuff that we got going on. So,
very nice.
So anyway, it's going to be national. So don't feel bad if we're not there yet. By the end of the year, we do anticipate being everywhere. So it's just a function of time and our ability to kind of do it. It's just, right. We're still fairly early stage in terms of growth and size and everything. So we will absolutely get there.
Nice. Cool. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, you got it. So I'm going to kind of move past work here and just kind of get into kind of what it costs. So think about, from a value accrual, we do charge a 1% consumption fee. If you do commit to join before March 1st, which is like a week, you do actually, and you do formally join before April 1st, you'll actually get 12 months of waived community fees. So this is a huge, it's about $600 to $1,000 value in terms of US dollars. But it's a completely free to use platform. Now, after that, it's 1% of your total consumption. So if you think about what your total cost of employment might be, like your payroll cost plus your benefits and such. So let's say I got a $60,000 base salary and I'm taking benefits and things. It could be close to $70K. I pay 1% on that on a periodic basis. So it's only consumptive based, just like exchange fees. So you only pay it when you do it. So there's no subscriptions. It's $20 to join, which is our legal requirement hoop that we have to jump through for the cooperative. But other than that, there's no other fees. We don't believe in it. It's a member-owned, community-owned deal. So like there's no third party sitting over here trying to, extract a bunch of fees on behalf of somebody else. We just don't care. And then the coalition, this is how we scale it. So one of the things that we're going to be putting up for proposal to the maker community is to actually formally join the coalition. But basically what coalition members become is referral partners, and they also become rewarded with value in the ecosystem. So they also earn work tokens. And so you don't have to be an employee member to be a part of the coalition or to be a member of the co-op. So you can become a referring partner and then stake your tokens. And let's say you're even a French citizen right now, and we're not in France yet, but you love this. It's like you can come and be a coalition member, even as a foreign citizen, foreign person, or foreign entity, or even a DAO, because the baseline to join is there's no KYC requirements because there are securities exemptions for cooperatives in the state of Colorado, which is another key reason why we use the framework. And it's really cool. So all of our technology contributors, our referral contributors, in other words, our stakeholders are becoming value owners in the ecosystem, just like you would see in a DAO framework. So it's an employment DAO with legal standing. So many of our coalition members, we have normie groups. So we actually have groups like Zero Accounting Software. We're doing a big press release next week on this partnership. They love the concept of a member-owned employment cooperative. It's never been done before. And so this is like a really big deal to them. So this is like, again, mainstream stuff. And then we've got obviously, groups like Gitcoin that have big platforms and other DAO communities like Badger DAO or, DAO House, DAO Stack, you name it. I mean, we're fairly popular in that space because of all the ethereal workers that exist there. But in any case, this is, in our minds, non-competitive because, there are some overlaps of communities, but it's about really scaling members. And so our scaling strategy isn't really about sales and traditional kind of like means of doing that. Our member growth strategy is really about activating the network effect in a natural, organic way and using our community partners and people who really believe in the future of the self-sovereign worker to do that. So if you go to opolis.co/coalition and you want to join, just put your email address in and put your Ethereum address in. If you join the coalition before April 1st, you will be also included in the Genesis distribution drop for work when that happens in early April.
Nice.
So what are the next steps? What do you need to do onboarding? So Claudia, back to your question. So here are the 5 easy steps that you need to do. The first is that for legal reasons and for procurement reasons around healthcare, if healthcare is important to you, and if you want any of the ancillary employment benefits, even like unemployment insurance or long-term, short-term disability, or any of the traditional window dressing of employment, you have to have what's called bona fide employment for yourself. Now, to do that, you have to be employed by an entity, which means that you're going to set up an entity and you're going to elect S-Corp status at the federal level if you do an LLC, or you're just going to incorporate as an S-Corp. Now, what will happen is when you do that, yes, it's be your own boss. So what we're going to do is we're going to co-employ you through the Employment Commons FEIN number. So the EIN number for the Employment Commons is going to be used to give you legal standing of employment. So again, it's a PEO for individuals. We're just using the laws that they've given us, and we're creating a very creative way of doing this, but doing it all compliantly. Now, best practice would be that you set up a business banking account, or that you keep your crypto separate. So like in MetaMask, for example, I keep a separate account for crypto that I accept for providing services in the ethereal world for my business. So my personal accounts in crypto even stay separate from my my business accounts in crypto. And there's reasons for this. When you actually think about the financial flows and eventually having to pay taxes or even funding your payroll, you're going to want to not commingle your funds. It's just best practice to do that. You don't have to. No one's going to come looking at it. But again, it's best practice to make sure that you keep things separated so you don't have questions later about like what you paid on taxes on or what you didn't. I don't know that trying to hide that from the alphabet soup agencies at some point is a good strategy. So like we just suggest that best practice long-term is to just kind of set things up normally. So then from there, once you're familiar with once you have your EIN number from the IRS, which we can also help you with to do, by the way, if you don't, we have a partnership with incorporate.com, who actually we should have put on our coalition list, but for whatever reason, we forgot to do it. They will help you for 50% off retail rate, set up a corporation, get your EIN number if you need it. And then once you understand like the employment guide, the benefits guide, which you can find at opolis.co in the footer, or even on the features page, and you know the healthcare benefits that you want, you can put features on the back end of that link too if you want. Then you just go to the onboarding wizard, which is commons.opolis.co. And that's also something you can find right from our website, or you can get with our membership stewards, Josh of which is one. And, you know, we can even do a screen share and help walk you through it. You will be using Web3 authentication to get into the system. You won't even know, I'll get to that question in just a second, Claudia. You won't even know that you're actually onboarding in Web3. So this is one of the cool compartments or components of Opolis is for those that don't really understand crypto, we're actually issuing them an Ethereum address when they come in. So for their tokens and other things that they'll be able to unlock later. And then for those that want to add a different address, like a MetaMask or something, you will be able to do that inside the ecosystem. Okay, so I'm going to come back to your question, Claudia, because I have a couple of slides to show you kind of why this is structured the way that we do it. Legally speaking, yes, you could employ people through your LLC and employ yourself, but I'm going to show you why it's not best practice and why it's not self-sovereign employment, because the minute you start doing that, you're sort of commingling employment and the operations of the business. So I'm going to come back to that in just a second. So next steps, form your LLC. So that's the first and foremost thing you got to do. We can't do anything until we have that EIN number to co-employ you through the Commons. You can schedule a call to talk one-on-one with our membership stewardships. And then you got to get 30 minutes or so to do the onboarding wizard once you have all your paperwork. And then you can email Joshua, who's here, joshua@opolis.co, with any questions. Okay, now to the organizational strategy question. So one of the things that was telegraphed to me in our original conversations with Maker about doing this is, a year and a half ago, is, okay, we've got people that want to do different things. We've got solo people that contribute to the ecosystem, and then we've got teams, right? Like, so how do we deal with both of these kinds of things? So this is number one. This is the solo person. So this is Josh's situation. It's not technically Buffercorn LLC, but we just used it for fun. That's our ETH Denver meme. But anyway, MakerDAO Big Hearts gives Josh DAI to his company. So this would be his company MetaMask account that he would hold this DAI in. And then Opolis is going to send a bill for the periodic payroll. Let's say it's a $2,500 or whatever it is, to pay for healthcare, taxes, insurance, everything for the actual paycheck. And then all the withholdings are done, and then the remainder is sent to Josh in the form of a paycheck, and he has the ability to elect cryptocurrencies in addition to USD. And then that paycheck goes to him in a compliant way, gets a W-2 at the end of the year, and that's how it works, okay? So legally, this is how it's done. Now, the question comes up like, well, what if we have a team? Well, here's the best practice, okay? Now, it's like, oh, shit, I probably need a Captain Crunch decoder to figure this one out. All it really is a multiplication times 3. I didn't put in the directional arrows and things. It didn't have room, and I didn't want to muddle it up too much. But basically, I've got 3, meme team LLC. Whatever your meme team, your food of the day, your whatever you got going on, enter team name there. But let's say that's the team that you and two other people have that are working on behalf of Maker in some project, right? Best practice would be that you set up an LLC for that going concern, or you have it as a DAO or whatever you want to do. But then the best practice would be that each of you individually have your own LLC. And those LLCs are the members in the operating entity LLC that you have for the business. What you're doing is you're compartmentalizing the business operations from the employment. There's a lot of reasons why you want to do this, and long term, this is going to be the fashionable thing to do. Your employment will be separate and unbundled from your operating business. So in other words, your revenue streams will be separate from your employment. Your employment will just be the mechanism by which you have your healthcare and your retirement plans and your insurances and your legal standing and your paychecks and your W-2s and all those things, but you won't commingle that with your revenue streams. So you could have 10 meme team LLCs here funneling into one SWORK LLC, which is your one business entity. Now, this is not designed to be legal advice. This is just illustrative of what other people are doing in the commons as best practice. We highly suggest that you do talk to a legal professional. You speak with us about other commonly done things. If you need somebody to speak with about these particular frameworks, we can suggest attorneys to talk to you about them. But this is what the best practice would be. So what it allows you to do is, let's say Josh, Justin, and Hannah all want to work together. They still do in Meme Team LLC. There's nothing different. They all own 1/3 of that entity, and it doesn't change anything. They all get healthcare benefits through the employment commons. And then if something happened to that particular project, I mean, keep in mind that 90% of startups go away. They don't actually lose anything with respect to their employment. Their employment remains completely unchanged because it's not Meme Team LLC or Maker that's providing the employment. It's them doing it with the employment commons themselves individually. Hopefully that answers your question, Claudia. Now, if you have, here's what we have happening right now. So we have some groups. In fact, we just spoke to another team yesterday that's going to decentralize all of their employment. They have, we've already done this for a couple of foundations. We've already done this for a couple of other companies that had, an LLC that they were employing everybody through, right? And they were using Gusto, and they had a healthcare plan that was really crappy, and they're like, this is terrible. Well, they found Opolis and they're like, why are we doing any of this? Like, we just thought we had to do it, so that we're just doing this. And it's like, well, these things need to be done, but the question is, who does them? Is it your corporation that's going to do them, or can you do them individually? And what this allows to happen is that every one of the people that comes into your team, you could have 8 people and they're all independently employed, and they're just leasing their time back to the LLC that's getting a big, so let's say the MakerDAO is sending $100,000 a month or 100,000 DAI to the Meme Team LLC. There could be 10 people in there, each getting 10,000 DAI per month. And you just have to create the, multi-sig or the appropriate cadence to distribute the funds to each other. But then it just flows right to your employment, just like you would normally do in this screen back here. So this is the micro of it. This is how it works for each individual. But then, again, this can be as complicated as it needs to be. But really, it's actually as simple as this. It just looks more convoluted because there's just more on the screen.
So I have a quick question. So assuming, the context of MakerDAO and core units, coming about and getting funding directly from the protocol, a core unit, for example, consisting of Josh, Justin, and Hannah would create Meme Team LLC as their operating entity that they would each have a third ownership over. And then individually, they would set up their individual LLCs and partner.
Yeah, their LLC, their LLC would own a third of it.
Okay.
So their LLC would be the member org of. So you don't need to be a person on an LLC. You can have an LLC be a member of an LLC. Got it. What you're doing is you're sort of shielding yourself legally from the operating side, but what you're doing is you're the only member. Can Josh own Meme Team LLC? Josh is a member of Meme Team LLC through his Bufficorn LLC one. So like because he's the only owner of Bufficorn LLC, he is de facto the member, and LLCs are all pass-through entities. So the reason why we suggest that you do can Bufficorn LLC own 100% of Meme Team LLC? Well, in theory, it could. It's all about how you want to flow your funds. So if it's just you, for example, so this is Josh owning Bufficorn. Yeah. So yeah.
Assuming a single facilitator owns the team, and there's like 10
so
employees,
if you have,
right?
if you are the main facilitator and the other people aren't owners, then it would look like this. And then each of these people, Juan, would have their own LLCs as members of the commons. And then Bufficorn LLC would just pay them as contributors. So it'd be a corp-to-corp arrangement in all scenarios. So the employment's handled individually by each person. And then Spain also become a member at the end of this year. Probably, Claudia. We're working really hard on Canada, UK, and Eurozone. So those are like really high priorities for us. So I think the end of this year is a good probability of that. In the meantime, join as a coalition member if you're in Spain, and we will. You'll have top priority for membership for employee status when it comes, and you'll still get to be a part of the Genesis distribution. So there's big reason why you'll still want to join.
Additional question to that. There was a question about needing to be a citizen or not.
No, just in the U.S., as long as you're qualified to be a worker in the U.S., whether it's green card status or H-1B visa or whatever, it does not matter.
Got it.
Is it possible to get the slide of the facility? Yes, we'll be sharing this entire slide deck with you. Juan, so like, in fact, I will go ahead and set that up in just 1 second. As soon as I stop sharing this, I will put, we'll get you the link and we'll share it in the forum, and that way you've got it.
So operationally speaking, with payouts, like let's say we're in the team structure right now, and let's say there's one owner of the operating LLC with multiple contributors. So that owner, that facilitator would facilitate, the payout. The payout would happen. It would go to an Ethereum address that is marked as, owned by the operating LLC, and then all of this distribution of salary and all of that would happen through the facilitator, through that LLC, basically privately arranged with the contributors. Right,
to their individual Ethereum addresses that they would then so their entity would be, instead of MakerDAO on this particular slide, it would be whatever that facilitator's LLC is would be paying DAI to the contributors LLC Ethereum address. Yeah. And then they would just then remit it to Opolis LCA for their payroll, et cetera, et cetera. So Juan, I will create for you a secondary slide just to make it helpful to visualize the flow as a facilitator, if that works for you.
Can you actually go to the next slide for a second?
Yeah. So what this assumes that all three contributors to Meme Team LLC are owners.
Right.
Okay. So assuming that Meme Team LLC is only owned by Bufficorn LLC in this particular instance, it would still look the same as far as flows go, because let's say SWORK and Pega Bufficorn are contributors but not owners. It would still look the same.
Payment-wise.
It's just the ownership of Meme Team LLC just happens to be one person instead of assuming it's three equally or something.
Yeah, right.
This could be any number of like percentages of ownership of that one entity. Now, again, best practice, if you're accepting payment for services, I would not DAOize yourself. I would have a legal entity to accept that, even if you're doing it in crypto. that's considered an asset transfer or an asset acceptance, and you would have to correlate that to US dollars in terms of like receipts. These are all things that we can help educate people on, and if we need to, I mean, these are things we deal with every day.
Actually, yeah, I'm curious. So if all the payouts are happening in DAI, does Opolis pretty much like take care of all of the math there and all the all the reporting there?
Yeah. So all the reporting, once it hits the Opolis Commons LCA, all the reporting is done there. We will be don't need SPARC paper before. Well, they would still need it if they're going to Juan. They would still need it if they're going to employ themselves sovereignly. If you're going to like try to payroll them through your individual contributor, yeah, they're going to still need their own entity to co-employ themselves. So best practice would be that they still incorporate themselves, and that even if they're getting, they could still choose to pay themselves in fiat through Opolis Commons LCA. So, yeah. It's still best practice that each person individually compartmentalize their employment into an entity. So I'm sorry, I got a little distracted with Juan's got great questions. He's thinking,
he's the man.
He's thinking actively about this, I can tell. So what was your previous question? I sort of digressed a bit.
Oh, it was more just about like practically what the payment flow looks like, and then just exploring this model, how it works.
So the payment flow looks like this in simple terms. So right. MakerDAO is going to send DAI to this controlled address. This person Josh doesn't have to send all of the DAI that he got here to his business account. So let's say he got 10 grand here, but he's only paying himself $6,000 a month on a salary.
Right.
He could send 6,000 in DAI over here to the Opolis Commons LCA, and then he's choosing DAI, a combination of DAI, USD, Ethereum, and Bitcoin, which is all compliantly done, as his paycheck to him as an individual. So you'll see the dotted line. Right. This assumes the co-employment relationship between the two, right? So he owns this entity that is acting on his behalf, and he's the sole owner of it. So that's how the flows work. And then if you go to the next slide, I mean, it's really just the same as, oops, stop, John, stop. I'm moving too fast. There we go. Okay. So it's really the same flow. Each person gets their choice of paycheck. Each person can pay themselves whatever amount they want as long as it's FLSA qualified, which means you have to pay yourself at least the minimum wage in the state that you're in. And then your, best practices are to separate again and not commingle your business funds and what you earn as a business versus your employment funds. But again, those are sort of nuance type things that we can help walk you through each individually as people come in. And everybody's situation, we find, tends to be just a little bit different. I'm showing sort of a template case, but it helps. This is why we do the 30-minute phone calls, to kind of really unpack each person's particular situation. So that way, we can tailor the conversation to a specific set of facts, not just hypotheticals like this.
Yeah, got it. So it looks like the two solutions that have been kind of proposed to the Maker community so far for helping core units really figure out that back-end stuff is Opolis, right? The thing that we're covering today's call. And then Dennis presented Accountable on the Know Your MIPS call back in January, where basically it would be like a traditional company, one LLC, one owner, and then like traditional employment, but their service provision would be pretty much the same, minus the sovereign employment, right?
The Accountable is a very. We're potentially talking to them about integrating some of the tax services that they provide into, instead of like trying to go traditional and all the accounting for like employees and contributors, actually taking the framework that we've built here and baking that into a service offering. so that it's completely vertically integrated, so that like all the way from the LLC all the way down is taken care of. Where right now Opolis LCA handles all of the payroll related stuff for each individual, but the actual accounting for the meme team LLC or even the Buffercorn LLC, SWORK LLC, the other expenses and other things that exist there, those things still have to be accounted for. So that's part of the reason why we've got the zero accounting software partnership, so people can get 75% off their own instance of a set of books. We can pipe all the data into it. And then we will be building out vertical integration into the entire supply chain of employment, including all the accounting from end to end, tax returns, everything you can think of will be built into the stack in not too long a time. But yeah, cool. As far as gamifying the system, really thinking about futuristic systems, this is a much different approach than Accountable is.
Right. I am curious. I know we only have a couple minutes left, but I know in a traditional company, employment and like letting people go and like, dealing with, what every single company deals with is handled, by a different set of laws. What's the, I guess, nuance behind doing it this way versus doing it the accountable traditional company way?
This is a really, really smart question. And actually, this is probably one of the best benefits of flexibility in this model. You're not bound by traditional employment contracts or regulations because you have a business-to-business relationship. So these are governed by contractor agreements. These are services agreements. So if somebody's not pulling their weight or doing their thing, you don't have to treat them like an employee. Let's be honest. Most of us don't micromanage our contributors in this space. It's, hey, this needs to get done by this date. We do things. We contribute
very
things.
Very meritocratic, yeah.
Very task oriented, right? So this isn't well suited for traditional employment law, where you control their time and where they have to be, and you issue them a laptop and all these sort of controlling, subjugation type of activities. So because you're doing business-to-business transactions, you can essentially follow the termination clauses of your agreements. And you don't have to if it's a 7-day termination clause that you've agreed to, then that's what you abide by. It's whatever you come up with as a business arrangement between contributors and their businesses and the meme team LLC as an example. These are all this is very flexible. They're handling their own employment regulatory stuff. So they are W-2s of the employment commons and of their entity. So they have to handle the employment stuff themselves. So you're basically taking all the employment regulatory stuff and pushing it to the individual, but in terms of a cooperative, employment ecosystem. So it helps them manage that. And then from a business perspective, it's just much more fluid.
Got it. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So have you seen examples of pretty standard roles like project manager stuff get converted into service agreements?
All the time.
That's normal. Okay, cool.
All the time. So this type of work is well suited for it because if you think about putting together like a spec or a project management outline or some sort of project roadmap, hey, here are the 10 things that you're going to be doing, do those 10 things, get as detailed as you want. But if they're not delivering on some output, it makes meritocracy much easier because you have to define the business versus just being an employee, which is easy to kind of just sit around and do nothing, right? Because you're being paid time-based versus task-based. So
right.
We've seen entire teams from software developers to project managers, product managers, designers, even executives decentralize themselves entirely into this type of situation that we have right here.
Very nice. There's a couple of questions in the chat. One of them is whether Opolis offers advisement on the best structure for business-to-business contracts, and the other one was just about contact info. So is there a Telegram? Is there a best contact, etc.?
So I'll handle number one first. David, good to see you, man. So can Opolis advise on that? We can give you best practices and kind of give you templates As far as legal advice, it's always best to get your own legal advice because we don't currently have legal built into the platform, and for risk and sort of liability purposes, we probably never will. We can also put you in touch with people that are familiar with Opolis, that are attorneys that can advise you on this. But our templates are pretty good, and we can sort of give you some pointers on kind of the things to think about and how to even build a statement of work kind of thing. So sure. Is there Telegram? Yes. So Telegram is, Josh, you want to dump that in there? Oh, there it is, right there. And if you want to put my Telegram in there too, Josh, you're welcome to while you're doing it. Let's see. How are the payments to suppliers and other than HR? Oh, very good question. So payments and invoicing are something that we're working on very soon. So there are some money transmitter issues and laws around that. We are working with both fiat rails as well as crypto rails to do both compliantly. So we're partnering with a couple of different crypto companies that have like some interesting invoicing technology, and we're sort of in the early stages of doing that. So yes, eventually you will be able to do end-to-end everything. So whether you're paying a bill for something, or you're invoicing a client, or you're doing whatever you need to do, it'll be available both in crypto and in fiat-based tools. So those are coming. Who is Maker is handling Bobgate conversations for BTS blockchain? I don't know what that is.
I think that's a totally like tangential question. Don't worry about it.
Can't help you, check raiser. I do like check raising though. That's one of my favorite poker moves. Check raise. Puts people on their heels. Okay, so looks like we are.
Yeah, we're a few minutes
at
past
time.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think I'm going to stop sharing. Okay, I'm not late for anything. That's all I needed to know. So I can if anybody has more questions, I've got about 15 minutes at most that I can stick around if we have questions.
I'm also happy to stick around for questions.
Yeah, so I guess the kind of punctuation on this is, and this is where I put on my sort of future casting hat. I've spent a lot of time in the employment space, and when you look at the regulatory challenges, like there's just a ruling against Uber in the UK around defining drivers as employees. California did this with AB5. There's this big fight about who should take responsibility for employment and employment-related things. And the trend is also not just, it's not like the employees want that. Like freedom and flexibility are the new thing, right? It's not safety and security of the, you're welcome, Claudia. And you're welcome, Jeremy. You're welcome, Nadia. And yes, Peyton, we should play poker sometime online. Come to ETH Denver, we play all the time. Back to where my kind of soapbox deal here and just kind of punctuating this. The future of work is independent. And freedom and flexibility, because of the broken social contract of employment, I mean, there is no loyalty anymore. Safety and security was really underpinned by loyalty. And loyalty doesn't exist in employment anymore. It's just not a thing. The existence of it, or even the discussion of it, is a mirage. It's not real. I mean, look at the crash of 2008. Look at the COVID unemployment numbers. There is no loyalty. So we've got to build systems that allow people to own their lives commercially. And Opolis really represents a very early iteration of this fluid, high-frequency, global, dynamic world of work where we work for 10 companies at one time. We're de-risking ourselves by having different revenue streams. We're not subjugated by one, putting all of our eggs in one basket. All of our benefits and products and features are sovereign to us. We get to choose all of those things and where we put our attention and what we patron. No one in HR is making those decisions for us. I mean, we're really making our own choices based on a system that's really truly at its core benevolent to us. And that's why I use the terminology public utility infrastructure, because you can't build this type of service on top of a traditional LLC, because eventually, just like Uber and Lyft and other platforms before them, they become extractive, it becomes misaligned. So we are very much like interested in seeing this become, well, quite frankly, the largest organized group of labor in the world when it comes to, like, think about that, is it as a network of independent contributors on a global basis. I mean, it's a really powerful conversation. Okay, yeah, we'll let the Maker folks address the BitShares chain question. So anyway, I'm done talking. Josh, do you have anything else you want to add to the group and how to get in touch with you? You're muted, Josh. There you go.
There we go. Yeah, I put my Telegram in there and my email. You're welcome to reach out by either, also Discord.
Cool. Yeah, we have a Discord. We have Telegram. Josh is around all of our groups all the time. They're somewhat quiet right now. We're just kind of coming out of, I wouldn't call it stealth mode, but like people are just sort of awakening to what Opolis really represents. I mean, we did just launch the product in late summer last year. Yeah, so come chat with us, see how we can be of help. Again, if you're an international organization, or if you're a DAO that has many members, or if you're even an international person, you can still come and join the Employment Commons Coalition. So again, that's opolis.co/coalition. And get in on the Genesis drop, because it's going to be, I mean, when this thing really catches fire, which it's starting to already. I mean, Josh and I are on back-to-back calls like every day now. This is going to accelerate pretty quickly, I suspect.
Yeah, I think over the next, I'd say 3 to 4, I mean, even extending that further, maybe like over the next 6 months, I wouldn't be surprised if you got, a dozen or two MakerDAO contributors, but of course I'm just guessing. But I imagine this is going to be super helpful to a lot of people.
Yeah. Now, one thing that we're not sure how to put this up for any sort of formal proposal, but this is maybe something we'll just float and plant a seed with you, is we would love to see MakerDAO, actually the DAO itself, become a coalition member, and the DAO would be rewarded with work tokens for the contribution. So we would be happy to entertain that if that's something MakerDAO is interested in doing. We've talked to the foundation about it, but because they don't speak for the DAO and the community.
By MIP6, he's referring to the collateral onboarding process. So he said Tim said it would be really cool to get the work token on the as collateral. Yeah.
Yeah, we would love
cool.
that. In fact, we are not. We're not selling tokens, right? So you can't buy work tokens, but by the nature of how these emergent markets work, we understand the dynamics and the likelihood of somebody going and setting up some sort of market.
Right.
We do see the thing that I love personally, and of course I'll step out of shilling mode for a minute. The thing that we were really aiming to do is, use a lot of Web3 concepts and token economics and these new age principles of DAOs and decentralized governance and Web3 tech and sovereign data and identity, et cetera, et cetera. But the real magic comes when we're actually taking a real life business, like a traditional industry, a big one, payroll, employment outsourcing, and all of this, and actually like modernizing it with like a business model that's actually sustainable in the real world. It's pretty powerful stuff.
Yeah.
So thinking about the 5 to 8 million people that are on the low hanging fruit end of the category of independent workers just in the US, for comparison purposes, the biggest PEO in the country is under 1 million people.
Oh, that's it.
So yeah, it's under 1 million people. So like, and they're billions and billions and billions in total market cap, right? So in thinking about what's possible in a public utility framework, community owned, my prediction is that we'll be able to scale value in a digital employment cooperative orders of magnitude beyond what anybody would be able to do in a corporate structure.
I definitely think so, because like even apart from just communities having value in and of themselves, like, you may be working with a number of people in Opolis on your project, but then once you're done with that engagement, you have access to, I know Opolis also does like job lists, like there's a whole basically alumni of people that you can draw from to do your
next whole network. Yeah,
really
so
cool.
at scale, what it really does is, so I was telling some people in the ecosystem the other day that he had actually said to me, say, well, it sounds like what Opolis is really good for is primarily sort of compliance and channeling revenue streams and healthcare benefits. And I was like, let's rephrase that. It's initially good for those things. At scale, it becomes a market for jobs. It becomes your DeFi portal. It becomes your commercial protocol of all the things in a single dashboard. And that is the goal, to vertically integrate all of those things over time. So you can actually operate in the ethereal world fluidly, high frequency, and whenever you want, from wherever you want, with whomever you want.
Yeah, I love it. Cooperatives are great. Empowering the individual, I think, is such a huge cornerstone of not just crypto culture, but I think our emerging generations culture, at least here in the US. I think everybody is becoming more and more cognizant of the fact that they have to really, look after themselves, take care of themselves. And thankfully, companies like yours are making it possible. So, and easier, because the main thing stopping people is really just the headache of incorporating, the headache of getting the legal advice, the headache of
it's terrible,
all of that. Yeah. So yeah.
Well, and the traditional corporate players, that aren't thinking about the individual, are thinking about the individual as product, right? So it's in the corp to corp world, the employees are the product. I mean, that's so yeah, I mean, nobody wants to touch a single person LLCS corp for a PEO. They don't make enough money. Their way of doing these businesses is very 1970s, 1960s, 1980s, and how they even go out and market their businesses. It's even in the digital world, it's just very old school. And it's very impersonal. It's like, this is the most intimate thing that you can think about: your health insurance and your paycheck, and they treat you like garbage. So, we really fundamentally redesigned the entire incentive structure, and and the legal structure and the benevolence mechanisms. Like, everything's been completely redesigned. The product is still kind of the same. It's just been modernized and simplified and automated in a lot of respects, but where it can go from here is really yet to be seen. I mean, we haven't even tapped into the power of this yet.
Yeah, nice. Well, with that, John, Joshua, thank you both so much for coming. This was really, really informative. I learned a ton, and I definitely hope the people that watched both live and soon the recording will also find this super helpful. So thank you. And if there's any really big topic of interest from our side, I'm definitely going to shoot you an email, and we can potentially set up a second community call sometime in the future if there's interest.
Yeah, we'd be happy to do that. So anything we can do to be of service to the Maker community. We are a grant recipient, so we are a part of the community. We are, when we did ETH Denver 2018, the DAI what color paper was it? I don't even remember which one. The purple paper. It just had come out. So we've been around in supporting the DAI community and the Maker community since the very beginning. So we're very interested in doing as much sort of interoperability and support as we can for the ecosystem, and we look forward to the opportunities that come up.
Right on. Well, thank you, gents. And hope you all have a fantastic Tuesday.
You too.